Good evening, everybody. I don't know if anybody's actually going to be um, here or awake or around this time of the evening, but I'm still trying to find the what I call the elusive balance in my life, and so this is kind of when I'm getting on. Um, it's kind of been a busy week, so I wanted to come in here and I at least wanted to do an intro for you guys and talk a little bit about, well, who I actually am and why I created this group. And so you can learn a little bit about me. A lot of people here, oh, hey, Lori, I'm so glad you could hop on. So a lot of people, oh, yeah, I'm getting comments. Good, fantastic. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of chit-chat a little bit about who I am and my journey, and the whole reason I'm here and I created this group was because life got really rough for me, and life was really crazy, and weird things were happening. And when I started kind of on my spiritual journey, I didn't see a lot of it talked about. So I really wanted to share it with people so you knew you weren't alone, or if something weird was happening, maybe something I'm going to say is going to resonate with you. But I'm really here to help people grow. I am very lucky in that I figured out my soul's true purpose. Yay! What am I going to be when I grow up? And my soul's true purpose is to help other people awaken and help people on their journey and help to speed up your growth and help to find your alignment so that you can be in flow and life can be easy and you can build your dream life and create your life story and have everything you want, right? That's what we're all here for. And to have some epic gifts and do epic shit, right? Okay, that's you. All right, so for those of you who don't already know me, again, Heather Hickson, I'm sure you figured that one out. But I have spent the last 17 years, I started as a personal trainer. So I've been in health and fitness for 17 years. I started as a personal trainer. Before that, I had the typical corporate job. I was a project manager. And I wanted to follow my passion. I found fitness. I was very, very, very fascinated by how the body could change in such a short amount of time by actually massive changes in your food intake. And that was just, I could not get my hands on enough information. So I took a leap of faith and I quit my day job and I became a personal trainer, and I loved it. And it evolved more into nutrition, where my specialty eventually became holistic nutrition. I became very good at food allergies and intolerances, and that kind of became my deal. And I found that it was just really easy for me. If this starts to resonate with anybody, I kind of always knew what to say. I always I knew things, I didn't know how I knew them. And it was very easy for me to connect with my clients and figure out their perfect program and get them the results that they wanted in a short amount of time, okay? And so I was doing that for a long time, 17 years. And I want to say about 3 years ago or so, I had what I call my midlife crisis. And if you guys have done the Meet Your Team sessions, you guys have heard the story already. And I had my midlife crisis, and for some reason, I got it in my mind that when I hit 40, that I couldn't be a personal trainer anymore, and I had to go get a real job. Okay, these lies that we tell ourselves, these stories that we're kind of told that you can't enjoy your job and things like that, and make real money, right? So I was living all these lies. So I decided that I had to figure out what I was going to do for the rest of my adult life, and I went back to corporate America. My nutrition and fitness business had started to struggle anyways. I'm like, well, maybe this is the time. So I went back to corporate America, and that didn't last very long, and that started sucking ass too. And I decided that, again, I was still trying to struggle with what I was doing with my life. So I went and I looked up an old psychic client of mine, because I'm like, oh, wait, I remember I trained this psychic gal, a few years back, and she was really good at telling people what their soul wanted them to know. I'm like, this is who I need to go see. So I went to go see her, and she's like, I don't know why you're here, because you know what you're meant to do. And I'm like, but I didn't think it was something that I was supposed to do the rest of my life, even though nutrition was something I was very passionate about. If anybody knows me, I could talk forever and ever and ever about it, probably just like this stuff. And I decided, okay, I'm going to give it a try. Things lined up just perfectly, as the universe will make it happen. And I went back into my nutrition business, and a lot of my clients came back, and life was good. Okay? But still, there was something in me, something that was just like, I know there's more for me. I know there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. I figured it was I needed to help my clients on a bigger level. I needed to help them, heal themselves on a bigger level, something like that. And there was just this thing. Something had to happen. And as it turns out, when I started back into my nutrition career, my second client came back to work with me. And it was very interesting. At the same time, she had met my youngest daughter, who's 8. And she's like, she used to talk to her guides, and, she stopped talking to them, and you should encourage that to happen again. I'm like, okay, cool. And then not too long after that, she just informed me that I had 8 guides, and it was why I was really good at what I did. I had 8 guides who were here to guide me in my nutrition business, and they helped me create magic, which was great. So that's kind of the extent that she told me I was intuitive, and she told me I had these guides, and everything was great. But again, there was still something hanging out there that I knew there was something bigger that I had to do. And I started to struggle with my life. Kind of at the same time, my psychic client had kind of pushed me more into meditating to get in line with my guide. So here I was meditating, which was really hard at first because my mind wouldn't shut down. And so I turned to guided meditations on YouTube. Was a really, really huge thing for me to allow me to quiet my mind down and what I call center myself in my heart space. And really good things started to happen when I would listen to these guided meditations, which was kind of cool too. And so I usually introduce people to those if you have problems meditating on your own. So the more I meditated, it seemed like the worse my life got. Okay, so kind of wrap it all up. As far as that part of my journey went, it was about a year and a half ago, and I even went and bought a pendulum, and I started trying to communicate with my guides. Oh yeah, Vinny, definitely. Yeah, we all can. I'm telling you, I got a story to tell and a lot to share. So I was trying to communicate with my guides with the pendulum. Got really frustrated with it. I said, "Forget this." Tucked the pendulum away in the drawer, and I just, I continued meditating because I would feel better after I meditated. But I would feel better, and then I went through these stages where all of a sudden I would feel really sick, and I'd get really depressed. And even being a nutritionist, I would partake in a little bit too many alcoholic beverages when I didn't have my kids or when I didn't have my clients. And what I found was, I thought I was having really bad hangovers. I mean, from one too many glasses of wine, I shouldn't have that bad of a hangover. But I thought, well, I'm getting older. Maybe this is how I'm reacting to alcohol. Well, what it turns out was, fast forward again, I would have a couple of good days. I would feel sick, and the way I presented sickness as my head would hurt really bad. I felt like I had a sinus infection all the time. So my head felt like it was going to explode. I had a lot of neck pain. I was miserable. And then, like I said, right after that, it was kind of like a lot of depression. I didn't feel worth anything. I didn't really want to go on if it wasn't for my kids, right? And I was struggling a lot, and I didn't want to function. I mean, I put on a nice brave face like we do for our kids and to be able to function in life, but I was done. I really didn't want to do anything anymore. Functioning was hard. So I kept going through the struggle phase, and first it was like a weekend or 4 days, and then it started happening twice a month, and then it started happening 3 times a month, and I'm like, I can't function in this much pain and discomfort and depression, and I'm like, so I quit everything. I quit my meditation. I quit trying to connect with my guides. I'm like, I don't know what's causing what I'm doing, but this isn't helping me, and I'm getting worse. So back to April of this year, again, things were getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and the struggle was always still there. I'm like, what is going on? This is killing me. So I had what I call one of my first come to God moments, and this past April, I said, well, something's got to change. And so I decided, one of my clients, this is what it was, one of my clients introduced me to Abraham Hicks, and most people here are familiar with Abraham Hicks, right? Lots of great mindset stuff. What you think and what you believe is what you get out of life. I'm like, I could really get behind this. So a little bit about my youth is I was raised Catholic, and it was kind of forced upon me, and it never really kind of sat right with me. And so when I had the opportunity to, I kind of stopped being Catholic, and I stopped believing in God because it just wasn't my thing. I mean, I always knew there was something bigger out there, but I didn't think it was God. So with Abraham Hicks and talking about, the universe and source and how there is something bigger out there, and, once you start aligning your mindset, then all this magical stuff will start to happen to you. I'm like, I can get behind this, definitely. I can work on my mindset. So it started with that, and when you open yourself up to the universe and you allow stuff in, magical things start to happen, right? And I would get rewarded in aha moments and synchronicities is kind of what I say. And so I happened upon Facebook land, okay, where I was on Facebook before. I had part of my business online, and I found all of these spiritual groups with all of these amazing psychic women, with all of these gifts, with all of these abilities and all these wonderful lives, and everything was so easy for them, and they had a solution for everything, and they all had a freebie, right? So I thought, here I am in my spiritual journey, I'm struggling, and these women have all the answers. Again, I'm just intuitive, I have some guides. I didn't think there was anything special about me. I didn't think I was psychic. I didn't think I had any gifts, nothing. But I'm like, something has to change with the struggle in my life, because I've never experienced anything like that before. So I joined all these groups, and I was following all these women, and I was downloading all these freebies, and I was really opening myself up. I was working on myself more than I've ever worked on myself before. I mean, fitness and nutrition was always very easy for me, but, you know, I spent more time probably helping other people than I was spending time helping myself, right? Don't we all do that? Taking care of everybody else. And like I said, I just got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I was working on myself and working on myself and working on myself. And I had a lot of time because my business was getting really slow. So I spent all that extra time working on myself. And my life started to get worse. And I'm like, what the heck? I said, here I am committing more time for my actual self-growth and mindset. And I happened upon journaling and limiting beliefs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the things that I had buried down deep inside me, because, you know, you're not allowed to share any of that stuff. So it was buried down deep inside me. And of course, you can't let it out. But then through journaling, I was able to start understanding why I was doing some of the things that I was doing. You know, fear of failure, fear of being judged, not being worthy. The inability to trust. That was a big one from my childhood. And all this stuff started to come up, which was great. Journaling, right? Yay. But here I am, you know, listening to other people and trying to do their freebies and try to do some more work on myself. And again, life is getting worse. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm, you know, taking all this time to actually figure all this stuff out about me, and I'm not getting any better. I'm even discovering all this stuff. I thought I was healing myself. So what I kind of put it to was that So what I figured out was I was spending too much time listening to other people and not enough time listening to myself. And so I decided that I had another come to God moment. And I said, I am no longer going to seek outside validation from anybody but me. You know, my psychic client had told me I've got these 8 guides. They're here to guide me. They've definitely done a good job guiding me in my nutrition career, because I was really good at it. So I'm like, you know, maybe they have a different take on what I should be doing. So I decided that since I could no longer get answers from Facebook land, that I had to figure out a way to connect to my guides. So at this point, I had met a couple of psychics and had a couple of people read me, or however that works. And I was told I was claircognizant and clairsentient. So if you don't know your clairs, claircognizant is clear knowing. It's how I kind of knew things without knowing how I knew them. Clairsentient is clear feeling. And that all of these clairs can show up for people in different ways. So my clairsentience, I figured out, was like when I personal train my clients and they're working out and they do something wrong, their form is bad, I like internally cringe. It's like, oh my God, don't do that. And I just feel it, right? Okay. And I'm also an empath, so I can kind of read people pretty well. So my claircognizance showed up because, like I said, my clients would come in for a consultation, and I knew things I shouldn't know. And I was able to kind of, it really helped me with allergies and intolerances, because things came to me that I knew I could help them with. And what I later learned with claircognizance is it's kind of like when you ask a question or you think a thought and the answer already comes into your mind before you even finish talking. That's like your claircognizance. And mine comes in from over here. And that's what I also figured out too. Clairvoyance is clear seeing, and again, that kind of happens for people in different ways. And clairaudience is, you know, clear hearing, which is awesome. My 8-year-old is clairaudient, and so she's always been talking to her guides, and I was always jealous. Like, I would actually have her talk to my guides for me, just when I wasn't getting a clear answer. I'm like, can you just ask my guides something? And then she'd tell me what they were talking about, and it was cool. But anyways, lots of good ways to figure out what your gifts are. So here I am. I know I'm claircognizant. I know I'm clairsentient, but I have no idea how any of these clairs work. I just know I am, and they help me with stuff. And I've got these 8 guides. And so I dug out my pendulum from the drawer because I figured there was no other way for me to communicate with them, so I was going to make this work. And so again, when you open yourself up to the universe, to something, you get rewarded with, well, for me, aha moments and synchronicities. So I Googled how to use a pendulum, and I got a great article. And I found out some really good things. And I'm going to talk about this in general, and then we can go into a lot more depth about talking to guides. I'll do another live about that. So just in general, I dug out my pendulum, and I said, okay, guides, we're going to make this work. And I kind of talked to them as a collective at first. And when I talk to my guides, I always call in. I call in my guides, I call in my higher self, my soul, and I call in the universe. So I call in kind of the collective of the three. And I was never really worried about I was just communicating with my guides. At that point in time, there was never, a fear of talking to anybody bad or a bad being or anything like that. I still hadn't heard anything like that. So I just talked to my guides, and I never had a problem. But again, we can kind of go into a little bit more depth when I do a regular live just on talking to your guides. So anyway, so I got the pendulum out, and I said, okay, 8 guides, we're going to make this work. And I discovered, through starting to talk to my guides with my pendulum, that each one of my guides like to swing my pendulum a different way. And some of my guides would swing my pendulum the same way for a yes and a no. And when I asked the same question too many times, not trusting in the answer, or even rephrasing it because I didn't like the answer, that my guides would swing my pendulum all crazy, and then they would just stop talking to me, and the pendulum would no longer move. And I'm like, oh man. So this took a lot of practice. But one thing I did find out is you can program your pendulum. And I would tell them, I said, please use, a certain swing for a yes. Please use a certain swing for a no. I appreciate it. I'm always very kind to my guides. And they would start using my yes and my no, and we kind of chit-chat a little bit. And then my pendulum would swing all wonky again. And I'd be like, what's going on? And then I would say, show me a yes and show me a no. And they would go back to what they were doing before. So I'd have to keep asking them to use my yes and my no, and I keep confirming it. So again, these are things you're going to learn as you start connecting with your guides. If you have a different clair and you're already good at it, then you don't need any of this. But again, this was my only way to communicate. And so that's what I used. And so I got really comfortable with talking to my pendulum. It's like one of my best friends. And I got really good at figuring out how to ask the right questions to my guides, because I could say, can you use my yes and my no? And they could be like, yeah, we can, but that doesn't mean we're going to. Which I also figured out that some of my guides are very sarcastic, and they have a kind of crazy sense of humor, which is the whole story about how I ended up with a live gecko in my house. And that was Bob, and he was my lead guide at the time, and he was very funny. And he actually, long story short, he reminded me of a guy that I knew in high school, and his name was Bob. And that Bob kept telling me that was that Bob, and I'm like, this is crazy. And I still don't know if I'm 100% in that yet, but now that I'm a medium, I might be able to connect with Bob, if Bob's the soul, who knows. But anyways, you're going to have to learn to develop a relationship with your guides. Like one of my online best friend, Michelle, when we started connecting it with her guides, her head guide wouldn't say his name. And so he kept giving us these crazy names. I mean, I even connected with somebody on one of my soul sessions, and the name he gave was Ludwig von Beethoven. And so and then there was a Catherine the Great in there and things like that. So sometimes you never know if you're going to get the right name. You have to ask, are you going to give me your real name? Are you willing to give me your name? That type of thing. And you're going to have to start to understand the personalities of your guides. And with time, with commitment, this is kind of that big thing in April was, my come to God moment was I was going to spend every day committing to myself. Every day I worked on this. Every day I talked to my guides. Every day I had questions that would just come to me. I was very curious, with all of this intuitive stuff and guide stuff and getting into spirituality and everything that comes with it. I had a lot of questions to ask. And so I would just sit there and I would ask them to my pendulum, and I'd get more information, yeses and nos. And like I said, my questions would just pop into my head from my clairs, and it would just kind of lead me in a direction. So I got very comfortable with listening to my pendulum, and I started using it to guide me. And so what I found was all of that stuff that I was doing on Facebook, it's not that people don't have a lot of great information to share. It's not that people don't have a lot of great modalities to teach. It's just what is in alignment with your soul's true purpose. What is in your highest good? And that's kind of what we have to figure out, is what's in alignment for us. Okay, so I started to use my clients messaging me. So we just have to kind of really align with what's for our highest good, and that's why I was relying on my guides, because obviously I wasn't making the best decisions just listening to people and, oh, this sounds good or this sounds interesting. And so when I started to trust my pendulum, I started to only do things that were in alignment for me. And one of the first things that I did, I came across a 72-strand DNA activation, and I got a big go-ahead from this. And with the DNA strand activations, what that does is it lights up all of your dormant strands of DNA, right? So I didn't know much about it at the time. I just knew it would help my gifts come in faster. And again, I was willing to do anything at that time to remove the struggle. Again, still struggling in my nutrition business, even though I'm doing all of this work. And, oh, hi, Katie. And so I wanted to remove that struggle as fast as possible. And if getting my gifts to come in would unleash something, then I was going to do anything I could. My guide said it was go ahead. I did the DNA activation. And all these people on the DNA activation were like, I saw this and that happened. I'm like, I can taste colors, whatever it was, right? And so, hi, Katie. And so I thought I was actually going to wake up the next morning a superwoman and have all these abilities come in, yet not that kind of a magic pill. However, did it help my gifts come in a lot faster? Yes, it absolutely did. And I would definitely do it again in a heartbeat. Hands down, one of the best things I've done. All right, so a little bit about DNA. Okay, I've learned a lot more since then. So what's really cool about DNA is you hear scientists today talk about junk DNA. Well, it's not junk DNA, it's dormant DNA. It's attached to your spiritual abilities. And just like they say you only use about 20% of your brain, well, that's attached. The rest of your brain is attached to that dormant DNA. So as those DNA strands light up, your gifts come in, more guides come in with your gifts, and your brain centers start to light up, and you start to be able to have access to those gifts. So what I found was, again, the universe rewards me for doing the work and opening myself up to it, and I got more aha moments and synchronicities, and things would just come to me, and I would just kind of research it, and it would spark ideas and interest, and I would go back to my guides and say, is this in alignment for me? Is this in my highest good? And all of these questions would come out, and it would guide me. So one of the next things I came across was the Akashic Records program. So I found a webinar for the Akashic Records. It's the first time I ever heard about it. It's our book of life. It's, everything about your past lives, your present lives, all your possible future outcomes. Everything is in there. Anything you ever wanted to know is in there. And I'm like, this is going to be the answer then. This is going to be the answer to why I'm struggling. And this will tell me exactly what I have to do. So I asked my guides, okay, is this in alignment for me? Do you want me to watch this webinar? And they said, yeah, watch it. It's definitely good for you. So I watched the webinar, and at the end, she had a course, which is fine. And I asked my guides, do you want me to purchase this course? And they said, no. I'm like, wait a second, why did you have me watch the webinar? And so I kind of dug into it a little bit more. Again, there's always deeper levels to this. It's not just yes or no. There's there's got to be more to this. So I asked them, I said, am I going to be using the Akashic Records with my clients? And they said, yes. And then I said, am I going to, and I said, but you don't want me to buy the course? And they said, no. So I said, okay, am I going to be using the Akashic Records with my clients more than 6 months from now? And they said, no. Am I going to be using the Akashic Records with my clients less than 6 months from now? Yes. And I was able to narrow it down to September. I'm like, okay, great. And so from what I got from that was, have patience, and the pendulum was like, yes. So I didn't want me to do anything with it then. I was also led to do Reiki. So again, I was told I was claircognizant, I was told I was clairsentient, and I was told I was a healer. All right, see you, Lori. And actually, I see you on Saturday for your session, which is kind of fun. So I asked my guy. So I was told I was a powerful healer, and I didn't believe that at all. I mean, come on. I just was really good at nutrition. That's all I thought. Still, again, not believing I have any major gifts. I don't know anything still about who I am and what I do. So they said, this person told me, you should look into taking a Reiki class. And so again, got my pendulum out and talked to my guides, said, do you want me to take a Reiki class? They said, yes. And so I kind of narrowed it down to a Reiki class. I said, is this one in my highest good? Is this one in my best interest? And I got a yes. I'm like, okay, it's not an expensive course. I'm going to go ahead and take it. It gave me the attunement. And after I was done with the course, the Reiki did not interest me at all. It was not something that excited me. I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing with my clients as a healer? So I asked my guides, I said, all right, I did my Reiki class. Now my is, doing Reiki with my clients. Okay, Lori, just let me know on Saturday. So I asked my guides, I said, is this what I'm going to be doing with my clients? Am I going to be doing Reiki? Is this in my, highest good? And they said, no. Like, what the heck, guides? And I didn't really kind of know the rest of the questions to ask. I just knew it wasn't in true alignment for me to just start going out there and doing Reiki. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to them. Because remember, if you're in alignment, you're in flow, right? Everything comes easy to you. And if you're out of alignment, you're in chaos and there's struggle, right? And I didn't want to be in chaos and struggle because I was already doing it in my nutrition business. I couldn't do it in other areas. So I was, again, really paying attention to what my guides were trying to tell me and trying to get better at asking them the right things, right? That's really tricky. Again, getting to know your guides. So after that Reiki thing, I was told to, before that, okay, this is what was really cool. So I got really comfortable talking to my guides and everything. We had a really great relationship. I had a solid relationship with my guides at this point. I was getting really comfortable with them. And I said, question popped into my head one day. I said, hey, will you guys tell me your names? I know there's 8 of you, and I always talk to you as a collective, but will you tell me your names? And they said, yes. I said, well, that's great. Wait, I have a pendulum that tells me yes and no. How am I going to figure out your names? And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a stupid question, but will you spell it out for me? And they said, yes. I'm like, cool. I'm like, let's do this. Again, I want as much information as I can get my hands on. I wanted everything now. So I was willing to do whatever I had to do to get it to happen. So I got my journal out, my pen, and I was sitting there and I said, okay. And this is how I did it. And again, this is just a little intro. I'll do a bigger intro later on a different video. So I got my pendulum out and I said, all right, first guide, how many letters is in your first name? And I literally went 1, 2, 3, and then it would swing yes when I would get to the right number. And then, it would swing yes for kind of a few numbers, and I'd narrow it down. Okay, great. Okay, guide number 1, 3 letters. All right, let's do this. Okay, first letter, I'm going to go through the alphabet. When it gets to the right letter, swing yes, right? So I literally went A, B, C, right? And I tried a pendulum chart, and that thing drove me crazy. So I actually did best doing the alphabet method. And so when I got to the right letter, it would start to swing, and then again, I would just narrow down the letter. So guide number 1, Bob. Awesome, I got Bob's name. I'm thinking, it took me a while. Bob's your name? Okay, if that's what you want your name to be, that's what it's going to be. And so I went through the rest of my guides the same way. But here is the coolest thing. When I started getting towards the end of my guides and the pendulum would swing, I would feel when the letter was going to come on, so I could go faster. So like, I kind of have an idea it's going to be here in the alphabet, so I would go fast, and then I would start slowing down when I thought I was getting close, and it would swing, and then I would confirm it. Like, this is really cool. So I would continue doing that, and I would kind of see if I could sense when it was coming, and then all of a sudden, like, a letter would get thrown at me. I'm like, E? Is the next letter an E? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, this is so cool. So here I am trying to figure out my guides, but what's really happening is I'm starting to understand my clairs. Okay, this is really important. So I was starting to understand my clairsentience. I was starting to understand my claircognizance. Since then, I've discovered my clairs coming again from over here. My ego talks to me from up here. I can feel it. I can feel it. I feel it and hear it now because my clairaudience is in. And then my thoughts, general thoughts, come from up here. So I was kind of practicing with them. Like, this is kind of cool. So after I figured out all the names of my guides, and they're not all normal names, and their names could change if they decide to change their name. I'm still not, I can't say I'm a professional at figuring out guides' names. It's just what comes to me. And then I'm like, okay. So questions started to come to me about my guides. And I'm like, what kind of guides are they? Are they archangels? Are they angels? And then I got to my one guide number, was my guide number 7. She's my fairy godmother, because I went through all the kind of lists of things that were popping into my head, and it was like, no, 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 no. I'm like, fairy? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, are you my fairy godmother? She's like, yeah. I'm like, that was so cool. It was neat. So anyways, I started to figure out who they were, and then I took it a step further, and I started to ask why they were here. Okay? And some of them were attached directly to my nutrition business, some my fitness business, some my personal gifts, there were different levels of what they were here for. Some were just here to help me in general. Some were here to help me, what was my one? Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back through my list and tell you what they are. It's very, very, very cool. So what I found was in communicating with my guides, I was starting to understand that how my clairs worked, that questions would come to me, that answers would come to me, and it gave me things to start to practice on. And I mean, I even took this so far as just Googling a list of clairs, because again, I was new, and I Googled a list of clairs, and I went through the clairs, and I'm like, am I claircognizant? Because I knew that one. Am I claircognizant? Yes. Am I claircognizant now? Yes. Am I using it now? Yes. Am I clairaudient? Yes. Ooh, okay, cool. Am I clairaudient now? No. Is it going to be coming in? Yes. And I kind of figured out about what month they said it should come in, so I kind of had an ETA on it. It was kind of cool. So there's another thing to figure out. So you can figure out a lot of things, again, by understanding your guides and connecting with them and forming that relationship and that bond. And then you can kind of start getting your actual gifts to start to come in. Because again, you open yourself up to the universe and they're going to keep rewarding you with things like this. Okay? And the more gifts you come in, the more guides you get that come in, and the more you can kind of figure out what those guides are for, the more you can figure out your gifts. And it's just kind of an ongoing thing that helps you to grow. So, it was really, really very interesting. And one of the next things I found out was I figured out, oh, hi, Becky. So the next thing I figured out was, again, back to the Akashic Records, one of my online best friend, Michelle, actually took the course that I did the webinar on. I'm like, you took the course? I said, my guides told me I couldn't. And she asked if I could be one of her test people. I'm like, heck yeah. Because again, still struggling in my nutrition business. I thought that was going to be the holy grail to tell me exactly what I needed to be when I grew up. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to hear this. And it was fascinating to me. Again, I'm really interested in the Akashic Records. I'm like, this is just cool stuff. Again, it really resonated with me. And she told me a lot of information about my soul and why I did the things I did and personality traits and archetypes, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But the problem is I got off the call. I'm like, this is really great information, but I didn't know how it aligned up with what I was supposed to be when I grew up, right? I still was searching for that end-all be-all answer to my question. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start searching this. I said, I'm going to dig into this a little bit more. And I really started researching the Akashic Records. And I just kind of, again, things would just come to me. So one of the things I found is we have, between incarnations, we have soul trainings. Okay? And this is basically like our soul going off to school and learning a lot of awesome stuff that will help us in our next incarnation. Okay? And we have what I call earth gifts, and we have what I call soul gifts. All right? So these earth gifts that we have are here to help us be really successful in what I call our human lives, right? Before we realize we're just a soul living a human experience, we're actually living our human experience, and we have these gifts that we're really good at and these things that we're really drawn to. And we can be really successful in life doing these, okay? And we also have our soul gifts. So what happens is at some point in our experience here, we decide that there's a lot more out there for us, okay? There's something bigger. I meant to do something bigger, right? Enter the midlife crisis. And we start to kind of search for that bigger thing. And that's when we kind of awaken up to the fact that, you know, we have a soul and our soul's here for something bigger. And then we have our gifts that start to come in, okay, that we can use. So here's kind of the cool thing that I found out is the reason for my struggle. All right. So I thought that was my midlife crisis. And then after I got into my spiritual journey, I thought, oh, maybe that's not my midlife crisis. Maybe that was my awakening. And I really thought it was my awakening until just recently. But then I realized, wait a second, I've been using these gifts for a long time in my nutrition business. That couldn't have been my awakening. So then I realized that, okay, this was my literal come to God moment. This was when the universe was saying, Heather, knock it off. We love you. But this is not your true calling. We know you love nutrition. We know you're really good at it, but you need to start helping people on a higher level. It's time for you to align with your soul's true purpose, which I still didn't know what that was. But it finally, I started to understand that there was something bigger out there for me, right? And it turns out that one of my soul trainings, because again, I was still using my pendulum and the alphabet at some point, I was researching soul trainings, and I'm like, okay, I want to figure out what my soul trainings are. And again, questions would just come to me. I would ask certain things, or words would come to me, and I would verify it with the pendulum. And the words I couldn't figure out, I would literally alphabet it again and have them spell it out for me. So one of my soul trainings in a past life, or before this incarnation, was that I was a guide in the Akashic Records. And then it started to make sense, because I was just I was discovering so much about the Akashic Records without knowing a whole lot about the Akashic Records. And it was very easy for me to access it. I mean, I kept trying to access the Akashic Records, how everybody was telling me how to access them, like through guided meditations and through going places. But it was so much of a struggle for me. But I realized it's just really easy for me to connect to the Akashic Records. I just like my soul signature can connect to your soul signature, and we can open up your Akashic Records, and I'm there. It's like kind of easy. And it turns out I was born to be in there, and that's why it is. And what was really cool from that is I started to just understand, oh, you know what? I really want to know my soul's true purpose. And a lot of these new categories kept coming up to me, and I was just able to find the information that I needed to find and come up with the answers that I needed to have. So I found out my soul's true purpose at this point. And my soul's true purpose is, again, to help other people awaken in their journey, to speed up their gifts coming in, and to help them align to their path, which is really heavy, being a nutritionist who doesn't know that much about spirituality and who doesn't really know what her gifts are. So I'm like, I'm barely trying to figure out my claircognizance and my clairsentience, and you want me to help other people awaken? Are you crazy? Yeah, okay. So again, this entire time since April, I've been keeping journals. I've been writing everything down that I've been learning, right? And I keep it to myself, or between my online bestie and myself. We keep it to ourselves. Because there's no way I'm coming out of my spiritual closet, because people are going to think I'm crazy. Nobody's going to believe me. And if I start telling them the things that I found out I could do, they're going to think I'm some kind of a fraud, because this is like fiction book material, right? We're not going to do this. And so it kind of just continued on like that. I would just start learning information, learning more and more, and digging in, and having these being pointed in the right direction, opening myself up to the universe every day. Please give me everything you got. I'm open to it. I'm open to receiving it. I allow it. Give it to me. I was like desperate. Give it all to me now. Be careful what you ask for. And so the universe just kept giving me aha moments and synchronicities. But here's the important thing. No matter how much more information they gave me, I was still holding on to dear life to my nutrition career. And I wasn't acknowledging publicly anything that I was getting from the universe. So I was basically what I call is flipping them the bird, okay? And when you flip the universe the bird by holding on to shit, they reward you with struggle. And this is something I just found out a few weeks ago. This is important for you guys. When the universe gives you amazing stuff and you sit on it, they will reward you with struggle. When you start to get into spirituality and work on your gifts and you don't use them, the universe will reward you with struggle, okay? And this was really important. Again, I just figured this out a few weeks ago, accidentally, which is another story, right? And okay, so again, now I know my true soul's purpose. I've been doing activations and attunements. So again, my first big thing I did was my 72-strand DNA activation, and then I found an amazing healer mentor that I was following, and she had this 8-week activations program, and my pendulum gave me a big hell yes on it. So I'm like, yes, activations and attunements help speed up your gifts coming in and opening things up. I'm definitely taking that program, and that really did help a lot of my stuff coming in. And towards the end of it, I started to get downloads in. If you've ever heard about downloads coming from Source, well, I remember the first time I heard about it, and I thought it was crazy. Again, a lot of this stuff was hard for me to wrap my mind around, outside of Source and the universe and everything. So I'm like, okay, we get downloads, and I kind of thought it was like, I was always kind of jealous of these people, right? Well, number one, with all these amazing gifts, but they would get downloads, and they would like feel stuff and see stuff, and I'm like, yeah, nothing over here. And then one day, I actually remember, hello, Olivia, I actually remember I got a download, and I could actually, it felt kind of funny. I was kind of laying in bed, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden, there's like this really soft, small, golden binary rain falling behind my eyes. I'm like, and you could feel the pulses of energy. And you could feel, when the energy slows down and it's done, I'm like, holy shit, that was a download. And I was sold. At that point, I was very curious. And again, I have to know everything. And so again, I was communicating with my guides, and I was talking to my guides, so I started to figure out what my downloads were. I was able to figure out what they were. Not all of them. I can't say I was a pro. I missed a lot of them. Even looking back and talking to my guides, I probably missed like 50 downloads that I haven't even gone through. And they just appear when I need them. I'm like, when did I get this one? They're like, yeah, like 3 months ago. Oh, okay, cool. Now I write them down every day, and I translate them. But so the downloads are really cool. So again, going back, the most pivotal thing in my spiritual journey was communicating with my guides, figuring out who they were, And then because of that, working on my clairs, right, working on my gifts, I started doing even oracle card readings and tarot card readings as a way to start bringing in my clairs. They said, when I was doing oracle card readings, they would say, look at the card, don't look in the book, look at the card, and when open your mind, center yourself in your heart, right, and see what kind of comes to you first. Does a word pop out at you? Does a picture pop out at you? Does a feeling pop out at you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And they said, just kind of look at the card and see what you can get from it, which was really hard in the beginning and frustrating. And just like most of this stuff is, in the beginning, it's really frustrating. But what do they say? This is the thing I heard the other day. You can read 100 books on learning how to fish, but you're never really going to learn how to catch a fish until you go and catch a freaking fish, right? Same thing with your gifts. You've got to use them. You have to commit to it. I do this every day. I committed every day, even if it was 10 minutes. I was committing every day to myself and trying to get better. And so using your gifts will help make it better. And through the oracle and tarot card reading, that was really scary. Again, even putting myself out there for that was like kind of my first intro into the woo-woo world, spiritual world, whatever you want to call it. I ordered tarot and oracle decks because they said that would help my gifts come in. So I just posted a picture on my Facebook. I'm like, my new decks. I said, anybody want a reading? And I was kind of kidding. And people were like, yeah, I want a reading. And I'm like, holy shit, these people are going to think I'm nuts. Nobody's going to believe me, and I'm not going to say anything smart, or, people are going to think I'm just kind of a joke, whatever. And I was really scared to do it. But I put myself out there, okay, because, and luckily some of my friends messaged me, and they're like, okay, I want a reading. I'm like, oh, it's somebody I know, I can do this. And then a couple of people that I didn't know that were in other spiritual groups were like, yeah, I'll do it. But, they knew I was new, so it was okay. It was a learning process. We all had to start somewhere. And it was really, really, really eye-opening. A lot of people resonated with what I had to say. And again, I just started with kind of trying to get a feel for the cards. And then I would get the book out and read the book, right? And they still resonated with what it was saying, which was really, really cool. And then I just started reading my cards every single day and doing my cards. And again, it wasn't just reading the cards. It was trying to practice my gifts along with doing it. So again, it wasn't just to see what my guides wanted me to know today. It was, let me try to practice my clairs while I'm doing this. Even if it's really hard to do and I don't think I'm getting anywhere, let me tell you, when you practice something every day like that, it starts to come in, and before you know it, you pick up a card and you look at a series and you can really see the story it's trying to tell, and you don't really have to look at the book, and you just kind of know what they're trying to say. You form that relationship with your cards. So, again, another way to grow your gifts. Okay? And so again, all of these, my gifts started to come in. So in this whole journey, again, communicated with my guides, got really comfortable talking to my guides, got really comfortable using my pendulum, trusting and having faith in the answers that I was getting, okay? And then I was doing activations and attunements to get my gifts to come in faster because, again, nutrition business, still failing, still more broke than I've ever been in my entire life. That was my struggle with finances. And still trying to figure out the magic answer while, on my spiritual journey. It seems like the more spiritual work I did and the more awake I became and the more I ascended, the worse my life got still on the financial end. I'm like, you guys, I'm trying harder than I've ever tried. Throw me a bone. And every once in a while they'd be like, here's a client, here's a renewal, whatever. And but I continued on because at this point there's no turning back. I mean, once you find out that all this amazing stuff is happening to you, you're like, you just want more of it. It's like the addiction, right? So it was cards, it was activations, it was attunements, it was the Akashic records. It was me being able to find, again, that's my gift. I had this ability to read the Akashic records, and I know my soul's purpose. I know my path. I know what I call my superpower. Your superpower is the one thing that you can do that nobody else on earth can do. It's your unique gift, which is very, very cool. And I actually learned kind of different archetypes than kind of what my friend had given me in the program, different archetypes that lined up more with what I call your physical body, your emotional body, and your spiritual body. And it's really neat how those line up. And that tells you a lot about whether or not you're working from ego, right? Ego, or if you're really heart-centered and showing up for your true soul's purpose. Because that was a small mind shift for a lot of things that I was doing is, am I putting this out from my ego, or am I putting this out from my highest good or for other people's highest good, that type of thing. Sometimes it was a really small shift, which can make a big difference in how you're perceived by people, right? Okay, that's, again, more stories that we're going to get into. And so it was through that journey, through the activations and the attunements, through getting the downloads, through being able to translate the downloads. The more gifts that came in, the more guides that I had, the more I could figure out what my guides were here for, the more I knew what my gifts were, the more my downloads came in again, the more I could figure out what those downloads were, what gifts they attached to, what my abilities were. So through all of this learning, I was really starting to put together a big picture of who I was. So remember back when I said I was a healer? Yeah, or everybody said I was a healer, a very powerful healer. I still didn't understand what kind of healer I was. But again, here I am drawn to all these activations and attunements, and it was in August. August was Lionsgate, right, where everybody was saying, beware of the echo, and it was kind of a big time for, a big energetic time where people were going to go through a lot of energetic shifts. Well, number one, everything is sped up, right? Like a couple years ago is what I found out is the timeline for really ascending and up-leveling and coming out has really, really gone fast, which is why you've seen so much more growth over the past couple of years than in the years and years before it, because the timeline has completely sped up. So all of us light workers are being called to duty to line up with our soul's purpose so we can help people ascend, basically, right? Or depending on whatever our soul's purpose is. So everything's going faster. And so again, through these activations and attunements, my gifts were coming in faster. And I realized and I was figuring out my downloads. And so I realized one day I was sitting there going through my downloads, and I'm like, what were my downloads? And all of a sudden I translated it, and I had a 172 strand DNA activation. I'm like, a 172? I said, me? I said, I've never seen a 172 out there before. I've seen 72. That was my max I've ever seen. And I'm like, why would I get a 172? Again, doubt, right? Who am I? Who am I to have an amazing gift, right? Still a lot of that struggle going on, those limiting beliefs, right? And I'm like, oh, this 172 is really cool. But it started to line up because back in August when the whole Lionsgate thing was happening, one day I was sitting here and I had like a really bad day. Again, always working through my limiting beliefs because, those are what keep us stuck, and those keep coming to the surface as we up level. Again, a whole nother conversation. But one day, I had like 4 limiting beliefs come up with the anxiety attached to them. You know how good that feels. And I'm like, I already dealt with these limiting beliefs. I know I dealt with them. Like, why are they coming up again? And I was sitting here and an angel number had come up. And I looked up the angel number and I was reading the passage. And in the passage it said, remember that you have to ask us for help. You have to ask your angels for help. We don't just come in and save the day. You need to ask us. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try anything here. This anxiety is so bad. I just felt sick. And I asked my guides. I said, can you take my anxiety away? And they said, yes. I'm like, dude, don't tell me it's that easy. And I've been struggling for all this time and you can take my anxiety away? And they said, yeah. And I remember sitting there, and just one of my limiting beliefs was money at that time. Just one. And I was really having a lot of anxiety over some things that were going on. I would, when you think the thought and you have the feeling, and that connected together is your emotion, right? So I thought the thought, anxiety, yuck, ooh, stress, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let's take this away. And these magical words appeared out of my mouth. I don't know where they came from because they sure weren't my lingo. But I said the words, and then all of a sudden I could feel this energy start to run. And it even felt like, this was crazy, I felt like my brain was sizzling. I'm like, it literally felt like the synapses, my neural pathway, the synapses were disconnecting and frying, and new ones were being formed or something. And this energy rolled through my body, and it would focus in my head, it would roll through my body, and it would focus through my head. And after the energy was done running, because again, it's just like kind of getting a download, you could feel the energy kind of wind down. And after that, I kind of opened my eyes, and I realized it had been like 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. And it was really cool. I thought the thought. I thought the same exact thought that I thought before I ran the energy that gave me the anxiety. And I thought the thought, and there was no feeling at all. It was gone. It was like, it wasn't even there a little bit. It wasn't even numbed. It was just poof, gone. No anxiety. Like, holy shit. I'm like, all right, that was a fluke. Let's try number 2. So remember, I had 4 things surface that day. And I tried it on the second limiting belief. Same thing. Thought the thought, felt the feeling, yuck. Said the magic words, energy ran, Energy slowed down, thought the thought, no feeling. For all 4 of them that day, no feeling. And I asked my guides, you mean I can remove limiting beliefs? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and then I dug into it. Turns out I'm a medical intuitive. That's one of my downloads that I got, one of my gifts that came in, which makes a lot of sense when you look at my 17 years in health and wellness and the things that I could see with my clients. So that was really cool. Again, let's write that in the journal, because we can't share that with anybody, because they're going to think I'm crazy, because nobody can do that shit. That's just nuts. So again, compiling all this information for months and months and months and months. And then just not that long ago, like I said, I finished this activations and attunements program. I got that 172 strand DNA activation, same thing. This can't be real. But and I asked him like multiple times, 172, are you sure? It's not like a 90 something or an 80 something. It's a 172. Yep, 172. Okay. And at that point, I was able, my clairaudience is coming. Not my clairaudience, my claircognizance was really strong to where I could actually start channeling things, and I knew what words were coming in very, very easily. And so I actually channeled what this whole DNA thing was about. It was kind of trippy. So I ran it on myself. I just knew how, okay? I knew how to run the energy on me, and I felt it. And I felt all those waves go through my body. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is legit. But I was still, again, kind of nervous to put that out there because I'm still not trusting in myself. So my healer friend, I reached out to her and I said, hey, Source gave me this 172 strand DNA activation. She's like, 172? Are you sure it's a 172? Are you sure? I'm like, I kept asking the same thing, and that's what they told me. I said, can I run it on you? And she's like, yeah. And I ran it on her, and she's like, yeah, no, it's legit. All her DNA strands lit up. The next day, her dust allergy went away. It was crazy, right? We say this a lot. My online best friend and I, we say that every day. Our conversations begin with, want to hear something crazy? You're not going to believe this, right? And I'm like, okay, this is legit. She's like, I'm like, do I put this out there? And she's like, yeah. So this is another lesson that I learned from Source, okay? Again, still struggling in my nutrition career with all of this magical stuff starting to pop up about myself. Still struggling. And, but she's like, yeah, put that out there, okay. Well, I had finally come out of my woo-woo closet not that long before that. And I came out to I came out to all of Facebook, my family, my friends, my clients, everybody. I'm like, here's the struggle that I've been having. This is, all the ups and downs that I've been having, and this is my spiritual journey, and this is who I found I am, and I have all these psychic abilities that are coming out, and I'm going to start talking about my journey. And that was kind of me coming out of the closet. So when I had this, and I was always in these spiritual groups, and so they obviously knew I was, believing in my psychic abilities and things like that. So when I decided to put my 172 out there, and I was rewarded by the universe with people who purchased my 172. This is like the first business that I've had, and I can't tell you how long. I mean, again, I would get bits and pieces from my nutrition business, but not anything like it used to be, like it always was. So I'm like, this is what they call inspired action, okay? If you're going to remember anything, remember this, okay? You show up, you speak your truth, you be authentic, thank you, and you take inspired action. Because when you sit there and you write all of your gifts and your amazingness in your journal, and you close the journal, and that's where it stays, the universe is going to reward you with struggle, okay? All right. So here it is. I'm finally showing up, speaking my truth. I'm being authentic, right? And then I put something out there, and I was rewarded financially. Thank you, God. Nobody thought I was crazy. Well, no, I can't say that. I think a couple people did, but that's okay. I put it out there. I stood in my truth, okay? Because I know it's real. I know it's legit. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And you have to really trust in yourself. And luckily, I had a team of friends that I trusted that I could go to and say, yeah, Heather, you're not crazy. You're in alignment. You're cool. You're in flow. And the coolest thing is again, I was still unsure of a lot, right? This is so new to me. And again, soul's purpose was to help other people awaken. Here I had this 172 strand DNA activation. I could remove limiting beliefs, and I'm a medical intuitive, which I'm still working on. So I don't come out with all of my gifts. I come out when my guides and Source tells me that I'm ready to use them. And and it's scary. It's scary to come out. And but it was best. It was the best thing I ever did. It was the best feeling. It was kind of like, I went from being a project manager to being a personal trainer. That was a huge shift. I did that. Why can't I come out of my spiritual closet and start, saying this is what I can do and these are my gifts. So the really cool thing was, remember, everybody told me I was a healer and I was a really powerful healer, and I finally lined it up. I'm not a Reiki healer. Can I do Reiki? Yes. Is Reiki in alignment with my true soul's purpose? No. Because I'm here to help other people awaken, and I'm here to help your gifts come in faster, right? By using light code activations and attunements that are sent directly to me by source, okay? And I'm a medical intuitive. And in my Akashic records, my soul's passion is actually botany and biology. Botany and biology is how everything works on a cellular level, which completely lines up with my fascination with how the body works on a cellular level, starting to make sense. So then I finally figured out that my first path under my soul's purpose is that I help people heal and grow and change, and literally heal your body on a cellular and a DNA level. That's my specialty. Yay! We're getting somewhere here, folks. And then, again, I was born to do the Akashic Records. My path number 2 under my soul's purpose is to help people align. I can tell soul stories and soul journeys, and I can look up all the pertinent information that you need, your passion, your soul's purpose, your paths, your superpower, your gifts that you have, your limiting beliefs that you're here to learn. We're here to look up all that stuff that you need now to figure out who the hell you are. Because again, that was my struggle, was why am I struggling? What am I here for? What's the bigger picture? And I was able to find that out in the Akashic Records, and you can too, which is awesome. So again, activations and attunements help everything come in faster. Lining up your soul's purpose in the Akashic Records tells you kind of where to point your ship. And, oh, hey, Becky. And so that tells you where to point your ship. And then I have a third path that just came in a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. So here's the cool thing. Okay, again, put the 172 activation out there. But again, I'm still like, oh, I have to pay my bills. I'm a nutritionist. Again, still trying to figure out how to move my gifts into my nutrition business. And I'm still struggling. Again, the universe is throwing me as many bones as it can, but it still has to open my eyes to what's really going on. That is what struggle is for, people. It's to let you know that my ears are ringing. And now I'm probably going to get a download, okay? And that's a whole other story. Again, so many stories. We're going to have so much fun in this group. So I still remember the day. I was still struggling. I was driving to go get my kids from school. I still remember exactly where I was on the road. And I'm talking to myself, talking to God. At this point, I believe Source is God. I learned that I'm a channel, so I get really clear information. And God introduced himself to me through my guides. My guide's like, God wants to talk to you. And I'm like, God? And I'm like, they're like, yeah, God. I'm like, the God? Like, you mean the big head honcho? And they're like, yes, God. I'm like, really? And they're like, you can call him Source if it makes you feel better. And again, me being Catholic raised and kind of not being too into God, that was a really heavy conversation that I had with my guides that night and God. So anyways, I'm driving in the car. I'm having this conversation with God. And I said, you know what? Things are not working the way I want them to work, doing it my way. Anybody ever try to do that my way, right? And so I said, you know what? There are a lot of amazing women out there with all these amazing abilities, and they talk about this amazing alignment that they have and how easy everything is and to just let shit go. I said, so you know what? I'm going to let shit go. I said, I can't do this anymore. I give up. I literally gave up. I said, I didn't think I could struggle this much in life. I said, I give up. I'm letting it go, and I'm going to trust that whatever is on the other side of this struggle is magical. More magical than I can ever imagine. I'm going to let it go. And I promise you, I said, I promise you, from this point forward, every day I'm going to show up. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to take the inspired action you give me. I'm not going to hide it in my journal. Right? And I said, that's what I'm going to do every single day. Besides all my journaling, limiting belief stuff. I mean, there's a shit ton more stuff that we do every day, right? For this soul work. And I up-leveled after that. I up-leveled harder than I've ever up-leveled. And we can talk about up-level pain and healing crises and things like that, where I thought I was going crazy for the last year and a half because I was up-leveling. That was that whole feel good, sick, depressed. Feel good, sick, depressed. That's up-leveling. And that's, again, a whole nother conversation. But I up level for 3 days. I get up leveling pain again, massive sinus infection, lots of head pain, lots of neck stuff going on. And this one was a lot of nausea. I wanted to curl up in a ball for 3 days. It was horrible. And I was the person before who never got headaches, so I'm a wussy la-la with this stuff. And, trying to function with kids and work and everything like that, it's no fun. So I was in up-level hell for 3 days. And I came out of that up-level. And when they tell you you can shift overnight, this shit is no joke, okay? I literally woke up, and I'm like, I felt like the clouds parted and the angels sing. You'll hear me say that a lot. And I really felt like a different person. And it was life-changing. It literally changed my life because I woke up and I was no longer focused on my nutrition business. I mean, I still have my clients, and I love my clients, and I love what I do, and I'm still working in that area, fitness and nutrition. But my main focus had become building my spiritual business and showing up every day and being authentic and speaking my truth and taking inspired action was my main concern. So that's what I did. And the universe rewarded me with some massive downloads. So I had the 172-strand DNA activation. They sent me, and again, I figure out my downloads as they come in. I got like 30 minutes of downloads. It was epic. I had one 10-minute one that was just symbols and symbols, and now I know what the symbol ones represent. And so I have an 8-week attunements and activations program, which is 4 attunements and 36 activations to get your gifts growing, in addition to the 172-strand DNA activation, completely channeled from source, completely channeled. Like when they say alignment and flow and easy, yeah, because you channel everything and it's given to you. It's freaking balls to the wall. Awesome. Anyways, so I got that program. I figured out my soul sessions, which is the bigger version of the mini soul sessions that I'm doing, where we figure out your soul purpose, your soul path, your soul superpower, your passion, your type, your limiting beliefs, your gifts, and all of that fun stuff so you actually know what you're supposed to be doing, right? And then I have a soul ascension program. I got an attunement to give you so you can access your own Akashic records. And it's the soul ascension program, which takes the information that we find in your soul session, and we actually were able to implement it through a 6-week coaching program, one-on-one, to actually align you with that path so you can find alignment and flow and all these massive downloads and ease and grace, right? All that good stuff. And so literally this was in a download, and I just started writing in my journal, and it just pages after page after page after page of all of this information just completely channeled. And then, oh, by the way, a week after I did my 172, my clairaudience came in. That was a kick in the pants, and trying to figure that out too. So literally this shit just gets handed to you when you finally align with your soul's purpose. Again, I'm here to help people awaken on their path, to speed up your journey, and to help your gifts come in faster, align you to your path. And once I aligned with that and said, okay, I'm going to do whatever you guys tell me to, they started sending me the inspired action. So again, it wasn't to journal and hold on to. I built my website and I put that shit out within a matter of days, which I've never done before. Nothing that fast. I mean, nutrition was easy for me, but it never came that fast. And so I'm here to tell you, when you align with your soul's true purpose and you let it go and you put it in the hands of the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, things will start coming to you. And it was this whole journey that started with figuring out who my guides were and connecting to them and trusting them and finding out what was in alignment for me and trusting it and figuring out my relationship with them and their personalities and how I could, talk to them and how I needed to communicate with them. And then it was, having my gifts come in faster. Because again, in April, I was at 8 guides and 24 strands of DNA. And I think I was hanging out, I don't even know if I was hanging out in the 5th plane then. I don't even know. I was probably still in the 3rd, maybe eyeballing into the 4th where my emotional body is. But I did my, today, November, right? November 9th, I'm at 422 strands of DNA activated, 24 in April, 422 today, 8 guides in April, and I only had so many guides because I was actively using them in my nutrition business without even knowing it, because I was aligned at least with my soul passion. And today I have 25 guides, I have 3 paths, I have my healer path, I have my Akashic Records path, and my 3rd path came in 3 weeks ago, which is my astrology path. I can quantum jump, I can blend the past, present, and the future, still trying to figure it out, which leads me to the biggest fun thing, okay, since I started putting myself out there and speaking my truth, and really whatever inspired action they send me, I show up and do. I'm not perfect at it. I'm still learning balance. That's one of my things that I have to work on in this life. Still trying to work on balance. But since I started showing up and putting myself out there, it's just been amazing. It's been amazing. And so I started getting these downloads a couple of weeks ago, and they were all astrology based. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But I don't have time for this right now. Let me put that aside, because I'm really focused on the shit I understand now, which is my two paths, my healer and my Akashic records, right? And my activations and attunements. Like, this is the stuff I'm rolling in. I'll worry about that later. And then all of a sudden, I started to struggle a little bit more. Well, shit, yeah, because I flipped the universe the bird again, and they cut me off. When the universe sends you shit, you pay attention to it, okay? I have to work in all of my gifts. I have to use everything that's coming to me. If I don't actively use whatever's coming to me, the universe rewards me with struggle. Why? Because that's growth right there. That's learning what we're here for. Those are using our gifts to help other people. That's aligning with our soul's true purpose. So if we're not going to use what's given to us, the universe is going to flip the bird right back to us with struggle. And so I want you guys to learn from my journey, and that's why this group is here. My soul's purpose is to help you awaken and to help your journey be faster and less of a struggle, and for your gifts to come in faster, and for me to help you align faster. That's why I'm here. And the perk of it is being in my energy helps you do that. It helps to elevate you. That's part of my mojo. And so with this group, that's what I want to do. I want to open up my journal from April. Source told me to share my entire journey. So I'm opening up my journey from April. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through it as it was. I'm going to take a look at it from where I am now and say, this is maybe what I would have done different. And I'm still growing, and I'm still learning, and I still have gifts coming in that I have to learn how to use. So as I grow, you'll be learning more about what I'm doing. And as you grow, hopefully you'll be sharing what you're doing. And hopefully I can just shed a lot of light on what's going on. I've had a lot of people that kind of really resonate with me, and they see a lot of similarity in themselves to my journey. So I'm hoping to share a lot about my limiting beliefs and what I found and how I was able to find them. We're going to go through all of my processes that I do, and things that help raise my vibration, help me not stay stuck in anxiety land, and everything that's really helped me to change and help me to grow and help me to find alignment and flow. I'm going to share it all. And yes, can I speed up your journey? Yes, I have my 172-strand DNA activation. Check it out. I have my 8-week activation and attunement program, which is awesome. I have soul sessions, which will point you in the right direction. I have my ascension program, which will help you get there. So I have a lot of stuff out there for you. I have even more coming. All my downloads I get in, I'm going to be sharing with you. I have 4 prosperity codes that I finally recorded and I have to post, and those are here for you to try to change our mindset on some things. So stay tuned, hang out in the group, have a lot of fun, and I'm going to be doing hopefully a lot of lives as I find balance in my day, and I'm able to be a lot more consistent in here. But if you have any questions, feel free to post them. If it's something private, feel free to private message me. And I'm really looking forward to sharing all of this with everybody, and hopefully easing some of your anxieties and fears and worries and doubts and all that stuff that a lot of people don't talk about along this. I mean, we hear a lot of people talk about their struggle or say that they're struggling, but I don't see a lot of people really going like, dude, this is exactly what I was going through. And it's not just, it wasn't as easy for me to just change your thought and everything will be fine, because that's what everybody says. It's not that easy. And I'm hoping that I can try to explain things in a way that will really resonate with you, or things that you can use. And again, as with anything, whatever I say that resonates with you, go with it. And if it doesn't, hey, no sweat. This is all about you. This is about finding everything that you already have within yourself. All right? It's just bringing it out and finding out what it is and figuring out how to use it and figuring out how to align to it, right? We're magical people inside. It's not like going to somebody and saying, hey, teach me a new modality, unless it's in alignment for you and you need it, right? But again, maybe some of these courses are to help your gifts come in. Maybe these courses are to learn a new modality that you're going to use. Maybe some courses are just to align you on the right path. Maybe it's just to be in that person's energy because they can help you grow. There's a lot of different ways we can look at what's going on here. So we're going to have some fun with this. And again, questions, let me know. Otherwise, I think I'll get going with the next live, probably a more in-depth look on how to figure out who your guides are, and and how that will help your gifts to come in by starting to focus on your clairs and everything. So I'm going to end this for tonight.